Hi guys! So my name is Biosecurity and today I would like to do some sharing with you guys to play my intro.
So guys, just for your information, Wacana Pengembangan 2.0 by Fakulti Perubatan Veterina UPM, the vet school of UPM, is they manage to have a collective initiative by their faculty and also the lecturers to instill some knowledge to the society regardless of the drawbacks of COVID-19. They managed to do this event via Zoom, so then people can still click and share and still watch it while they get some new knowledge about animal science. So without further ado, this is the topic: knowledge sharing on raising village chicken. So this topic is actually very famous. This topic is actually the talks of the town because we all know Malaysians love to eat village chicken. Moving on to the first part of today's video. So many papers, journals and articles are written through since 1990s about village or indigenous chicken. These three specifically here are written by our beloved Datin Paduka Dr. Aini Idris, our Vice Chancellor of UPM. So based on her study and also with other lecturers, the panels come up with these properties of village chicken. So for the first one, they held a prominent economic importance since the 1990s. Owner of the small farm usually will hold less than 1,000 chicken in a time. Other than that, they hold a very low cost. This is because the human domestic waste disposal will later become the source of the chicken diet. Next, the farm are handled part-timely by the owner. This is because sometimes the owner holds some kind of other job rather than focusing on doing village chicken farming, as the amount of the chicken that they are working with are smaller, so they decided to do some other jobs alongside with village chicken. Other than making the village chicken as a side income, they also decided to use the chicken manure as the fertilizer for their planting areas. So they might have some planting, they went for rubber working, and then they went for the paddy field. So the chicken manure can become a big help to their other source of incomes. The village chicken, they are situated in the barn, right? So sometimes they are fed by the owner, but sometimes they are left to graze the field at the owner house compound, or they are left inside a big cage where they can try to graze around for food. As I said earlier, one farm holds less than 1,000 chicken, right? So we can say that they hold a very small scale farm. But alongside of that, the owners still feed them once or twice a day according to their own style of farming. And lastly, it is very famous for its demand of eggs and meat because they are different in a way that their texture, their taste, which I will explain later on. So stay tuned. Number 2, differentiating village chicken. What makes village chicken different from the commercialized chicken? Firstly, the meat relative weight of the village chicken is bigger than the commercial chicken. Second point, the diameter of the muscle fiber of the village chicken is way bigger than the broiler chicken. The third point is village chicken has the type 1 muscle fibers. So, the type 1 muscle fibers, they are usually rather more compact and very impactful of the texture. As for the fourth point, so high collagen makes the meat to become firmer, even though when we cook the meat for some time, the meat are still intact to one another rather than fall off from the bone. Lastly, village chicken has a high glutamic acid. This will bring a better organoleptic properties to the eater. So, issues regarding village chicken. What does they have to face? What are the challenges in rearing village chicken? Firstly, biosecurity and its importance. So, before we go straight to the first point, actually, the disease prevention can come from three ways, which is the first one, biosecurity, which I will put so much emphasis on this video. Second point, which is immunization, and the third one is treatment. So, what is biosecurity? The definition of biosecurity is the management methods to control the entry of infections in terms of microorganisms, fungi, bacteria, virus, parasites, into infecting the community. This infection can come in three ways also, which they can affect the chicken inside the whole farm or infect the chicken from the nearby farms, and lastly, maybe it will affect human, which is the zoonotic diseases. Three basic elements of biosecurity. The first one is isolation, the second one is cleanliness, and lastly, the movement control. First one, isolation. They isolate the chicken to make sure that they didn't open any farm in a very high populated area. Second, they are fenced. They put a gate around the farm. And then the third one is to have only one entry and only one way out. Second point, cleanliness. Cleanliness are practiced around village chicken farms so that they can control any reimbursement of infections. So firstly, they control the cleanliness of their instruments, their equipment. Secondly, they do disinfection to the farmers, to the owners, to the workers, and also to the place. The third one is pest controls. Last point of elements of biosecurity, which is movement control. They make sure that they did not add any new chicken to the chicken farm, because this will create so much confusion later on in case that there are infections. The second point is high food conversion ratio will lead to higher cost of rearing village chicken in terms of their feed. I did mention earlier in the video that village chicken sometimes require a low cost because the owner can always provide some domestic waste disposal for them as their diet, and also they can graze by themselves in their compound. But then that does not really correlate as the years comes by, because at this time around, the owner are demanded to prepare such a great substantial environment for them, so then they can get enough supplements and also nutrients. So they they tend to pay more in terms of the chicken feed because of the FCR. FCR is food conversion ratio. Food conversion ratio is a rate of efficiency counted from the livestock feed mass, compared it with the livestock output, which is the meat weight. So as we count the numbers, we see that FCR is higher for the village chicken feed rather than the broiler chicken feed. This has proven with two reasons. One, the growth curve of village chicken feed is much more lower than the broiler chicken because they need some extra time for them to grow and ready to be harvested, rather than the ones who are rather than the broiler chicken, where they can be harvested in around 30 to 40 days, while the village chicken can be harvested after 6 months. Second point is the ingredients inside the village chicken feed that are somehow imported from other countries, so then they can mix well and provide the enough nutrients for the village chicken. The example of ingredients that are imported are corn, fish meal, and also wholemeal. So what did the researchers do after all these times and finding out that this is a big problem, as the farmers needs to maintain their budget and management? So Dr. Hasliza, the one who shared this topic during the Zoom, she managed to have a study about this. It is a co-funded research from Betsol, a company with UPM, and they managed to find out that they can replace some of the imported ingredients with black soldier fly, or we call it as lalat askar hitam. So we conceive them at their pre-pupae level, conceive it as one of the main ingredients inside the village chicken feed. Black soldier fly at their pre-pupae level can provide a high number of protein but low number of saturated fat and high number of unsaturated fat. It is actually an organic material that somehow village chicken went to graze for. So it is actually a natural food for them. So Dr. Hasliza can conclude that it is safe for them to provide the black soldier fly pre-pupae as their main ingredients inside the village chicken feed. For the third point, disease related to village chicken and their vaccination. Actually, in Malaysia, there hasn't been so much research papers about diseases or vaccination specifically for village chicken, and most of the doctors that are presented inside the Zoom session always emphasize on how important it is we as a student needs to perform well and do some important research, so then it can help improve the system in terms of the management of chicken feed. As for disease, Dr. Nick Faiz did touch so much on many diseases. For example, Sampa, Campylobacter, Salmonella, some worm diseases, and also skin infections. Dr. Nick also said that it is very hard for the farmers to check on their symptoms because sometimes it happens involuntarily, and one chicken may not be a representative to the whole farm. So disease diagnoses are very, very hard for the doctors, the vet, in a specific farm. Moving on for vaccination. So Prof. Jalila Abu, one of the lecturers, did touch on vaccination. She said that not all vaccines are needed for all village chicken because there are some diseases that are uncommon and happens involuntarily sometimes to a small amount of chicken rather than happens with the whole farm. And one more issue with vaccination is the farmers are not capable of giving them vaccination in terms of money, in terms of management, in terms of time, and they might not have workers. But then, as for now, in the clinical cases, the common disease that needs vaccines are SAMPA and also coccidiosis. It is some kind of diseases that shows big impact on their clinical signs. One of the doctors really touches important issues, important cases that happened in Kelantan in 2017, which is the disease called H5N1. It has affected thousands and thousands of chicken, which it is an avian influenza and highly pathogenic to the chicken. So once they got the disease, it is lethal for them. The impact of disease to village chicken is very critical because the first one will be the fatal, which means once they got a serious infection, it is hard to retrieve them back. Second, low production, because they will have low weight, low production of eggs, but then high FCR, and the quality will be off. Next, the economical appearance will drastically decrease, and lastly, zoonotic issues. And lastly, the farmers that are lacking of knowledge and help. The fourth issue, the last issue that we are talking today is the lack of knowledge from the farmers in terms of management of the farm. So this is actually a big issue because this is the root of problem when the owner, when the ones who are irresponsible to take care of the farm does not have any knowledge about diseases, about vaccines, about ways to take care of their farms to prevent diseases. It will lead not only issues to the chicken itself, it also will bring such a bad critical impact to the owner later on if something bad happens. So these issues needs to be tackled very carefully by the government to make sure that these farms can carry on with their business well. What are the challenges that this farmer needs to face? Number one, there are lack of source. What kind of source? Time, money, and also hard work, or workers, or the ones who are in responsibility to help them to rear the chicken farms. Second, too high risk because they are giving their best, their effort towards something that is quite small, so the risk of failing the rearing processes can be very critical. And then lastly, Prof. Jalila also mentioned about how UPM has been such a great help in trying to give their best to supply knowledge and also technical help. She mentioned about vaccination programs, vaccination events, vaccination talks that these owners need to go, so then they can have a greater view, like what are they gonna do for their own farm. Other than that, they also provided some services, like some vets can come to the farm to check on the biosecurity of the place, or to check whether the places are clean enough, or to check like is there any diseases infected to their chicken. And this has been such a great help to the society, and I'm proud to say that UPM is my university. So guys, that is all from me. I think that this whole Zoom session has been such a great opportunity, a great platform for knowledge sharing. I would like to say thank you to Faculty Perubatan Veterina for such an amazing opportunity for me to hear such good knowledges, such good infos that I can learn. And I hope to see you guys soon. Bye bye.